Hi guys, today I'm going to show you how to create a super easy but super effective illustration of planets on your iPad. You don't even need to have any drawing skills to follow this tutorial. It's very easy and very satisfying. I'm using an app called Adobe Fresco. It's available for free and you can play around with the amazing watercolor brushes on this app. I'm going to use the tools like Selection Tool and watercolor brushes in Adobe Fresco to create this illustration. First of all, we're using a paint bucket tool to fill the layer with one color. You could actually use a slightly darker color than I used here, and it would create an even more dramatic effect. Now let's make a new layer and add some splatter. It's a watercolor brush that's called splatter, and it creates really nice speckles of color. They really look like clusters of stars in the sky, and that's the effect that I'm going for here. I'm doing the splatters in white first, just to create the highlight and to create an effect that looks like stars. But then, to make this illustration even more dramatic, we're going to add some black splatter as well. It just creates a little bit of depth and contrast, so it makes your illustration more effective. You can also add a little bit of purple just to blend the background and the foreground a little bit better. And as I said, the illustration is going to look even more realistic with darker color. Now let's use Selection Tool, and we're going to use the Circle Selection Tool to sort of mask one area of the drawing, and now everything that we're going to do is going to stay just in that circle. I'm using watercolor soft brushes, and they blend together really well. The blending effect on watercolor brushes in Fresco is really realistic. And to make this first planet, I'm just using stripes of different colors. You can use any colors you like. I've gone for some bright colors here, and you can see how they blend together. I also like to add a little bit of splatter brush just on top, and it helps to blend the colors even more. It creates a very interesting texture as well. You don't have to do your planets in exactly the same way. If you like, you can do slightly more abstract shapes and splatters of colors. Just make sure that you make every new planet on a new layer so that it's easier for you to move them around later on. So make sure it's on a new layer, and we're going to load last selection. So if you wanted all your planets to be exactly the same shape, instead of creating a new selection every time, you just press Load New Selection in the selection panel. And this time as well, I'm going to just use simple stripes to create a planet. If you want to, you can actually reference the real planets in the solar system, and you can use the colors of the real planet. And in this way, you can even use it as an educational project with your kids. So, as I said, you can use any colors that you like. Just one word is that it's nice to use contrasting colors. So if the background is blue, it's nice to use colors like yellow and red. They're just going to stand out a bit better on the blue background that we have. Now I'm going to make a third planet. And for this planet, I'm going to use just a more abstract way of painting instead of doing stripes, so that it's a little bit different from other planets. And again, you can see how with the watercolor brushes, the layers of color just blend together in a very realistic way. And I'm going to add a little bit more splatter, again just to add a little bit more texture to my illustration, because I really love the effect. I think it's very beautiful and I like the gradient. That's planet number 3, and now let's make a 4th planet. You can see here that I made a mistake of not making the 3rd planet on a new layer, and that's why when I want to move it, it's actually much harder. So just make sure that each planet is on its own layer. And it's a very nice thing to do when you're creating any illustration, is to have every new object on another layer, so that if you want to move it around, it's just going to be much easier. Or if you want to change it in any way, it's also going to be much easier if it's all on new layer. For this planet, I am just using splatter brush without any wash on the background. And you can see how it blends in a very interesting way and also creates a gradient sort of effect. Now, the last planet, I'm just going for 5 here, but as I said, it's up to you. You have the creative freedom to change this tutorial and do it in your own way and your own style. So again, here I'm just using the splatter brush and sort of creating this abstract texture. So now that I'm done with all the planets, I'm going to add the rings. And it's just going to finalize the illustration a bit more. Again, make sure that you do it on a separate layer, so if you need to erase parts of it or just fix it somehow, it's much easier for you to do that. And here we are, this is it. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. Please let me know in comments if you have any questions, and make sure that you subscribe just so that you can get notified when the new tutorials come out. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.